landing pages every 15 minutes. You know, that's not real time, but it's, you know, it's pretty good every 15 minutes. But then if you want to go beyond that, I think it's these other very specialist tools will be necessary, and you really have to work on them. They're not like CDH3, install, run, it's done. You have to compile them, you have to, you know, find bugs, and it's a different stage.
I think it's a really good example you gave of search, because I noticed that sometimes when I do searches, I'll see tweets show up as a result, you know, and that's obviously only useful if it was a recent tweet, right? So you got to get that up there quickly. And Alex, I think I was in your session, and Alex said, if you can't make that data useful in 5 minutes, you might as well throw it away. I think it's a little extreme in some cases, but I like that comment because I think that gives us an idea of where information is going, or maybe where it already is that a lot of this information just isn't that interesting after a short period of time, so you better get it out there and do something with it right away. You want to comment?
Just to address exact scenario you brought up about Twitter analytics. So there's a company, you know, that's called Cosmics, acquired by Walmart, now Walmart Lab. They are 2 blocks from my house. Yeah, yeah. So that was their use case. They plan to, you know, you have to see it, to open source their real-time, you know, analytics system and stream processing, which is the exact scenario you just mentioned. It's yet to be seen to become open source, but you know, they mentioned that they're gonna have it. So hopefully they. I let them decide. There's an internal name for it, but when they open source it, they probably change the name. They mentioned that they're going to put it out in a few months. But talking from experience, don't hold your breath for it, but if you like, follow up with them.
Yeah, it used to be called Cosmics, and now it's called Walmart something. Walmart Labs. Yeah, and they're on Mercy Street in Castro, right next to Bank of America, if you ever want to stop by. Okay. All right, well, that was a good question, so thank you from the audience there. Now, there was a question. We have about 8 minutes left, so we're going to try to keep the answers short and see if we can't get through as many as possible here. One of the questions was, what programming languages are useful, or are there libraries? I mean, we talked about some pretty popular open source projects, but just maybe more nimble, or, you know, are there programming language advantages? Any comments or thoughts on that?
That's actually a very interesting topic. Well, from the top of the 30,000 point of view, I think that if you want to program really fast and in dynamic environment, you definitely need to use Java. You can do a much efficient program in C++. It just takes more time to debug and build, and with the price we pay for every programmer, it's just not affordable. But rather do iterations really fast and develop really fast and stay ahead of the crowd. The other tendency that I've noticed is actually functional languages. They really became really popular, particularly in complex domains like finance. And the reason for that, the approach to data has significantly changed recently. So previously you tried to mangle the data to answer a very limited subset of queries really fast. Lately people approach this problem more from a machine learning point of view. So they throw a bunch of functions on the data which are immutable and try to get insights. And that's what most of the people here, I hope, do from machine learning community. They try different algorithms and try different things. And well, functional languages is probably at a higher level than even Java. So the focus is more on speed of development rather than on efficiency.
On the topic of functional languages, I would like to bring up, you know, Pig. You know, it's not been talked. I used to be Pig person, solutions person for all Yahoo, so it's not fair. So I owe it to them, anyways. Pig is a great solution for pipelines, data pipelines, semi-structured data, and it helps you, to my colleague's point, develop much faster, so an order of magnitude faster than a plain MapReduce job. So definitely look at Pig. If you have heavily structured data, you know, Hive is a good option too.
Okay, go ahead and use that mic.
This is going to be a shameless plug, but I'm working for Evolution Analytics on a package to allow people to do MapReduce jobs in R, and we have a comparison on the wiki, which is You go to GitHub and look for the Hadoop project as a wiki. And we have comparison between k-means done in Python, Pig, and Java combined, and done in pure R. And it's about a fourth of the code, and it's a single language. So I think there is room to go even farther as far as the abstraction and ease of use. Of course, we started with R because we hope that the statistical community that's behind the success of that product will realize that it's time to do parallel programming, and it's time to update their tools. So sometimes the brain power behind the community is also important, besides the specifics of the specific quality of the tools.
So Hadoop, MapReduce, great framework, but it's really hard to drive it. And MR job, I'll repeat again, MR job is fantastic, because previously, if you wanted to have a multi-step MapReduce job, you probably needed to have a shell script and you had to manage things very carefully and very closely. With MR job, you can put multiple steps into your code, and basically it's in Python. So basically, what you're doing is you're programming in Python using a MapReduce type metaphor, and it gives you wonderful ability to control the flow of data, and from an algorithmic perspective, it's very easy to code up any of your favorite algorithms: k-means, EM. Bayesian, whatever. How do you compare with cascading or something? Cascading is like, I would say, forget it. I mean, if you got time to write it in cascading, then great. But it's going to take a while to develop algorithms in cascading. It's much easier with a high-level language like Python. But of course, it's going to be much faster using cascading. I've used both, but I recommend go with a simpler development curve.
Are there other tools that are in other languages? Yeah.
I haven't. I don't know of any.
We have one down here.
Cascading now is available. I think it's available on Scala.
Okay.
I have another. I'm sorry. I'm into practical implementation. Go ahead. It's a question.
I want to add a quick thing that if you go to my blog, I wrote a side-by-side comparison of all the word count programs in I think 7 different languages or library for MapReduce, and it doesn't even. I didn't include my Mr. Job, which is unfortunate. I did Dumbo for Python. I find Dumbo to have some limitations, in my opinion, but it's the jury's out.
And go ahead and list your blog. What's your blog's name?
Blog.piccolboni, my last name.info. So now you're toast because it's a 10-letter Italian name, but
you're going to want to look at the spelling up there, just so you know.
Last name, blog.piccolboni.info. And it was published in April, I think. It's not the last.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and move on. And you had a question?
Just in terms of translation, because we can estimate the models using Hadoop, right? We'll let them train for whatever time it has, and then we'll just do the implementation. For instance, how easy or hard would it be to do multiple trees, for instance, that you have recursive trees with boosting that imply, estimating 100 to 100 trees on the full database. Now, how do we implement an algorithm like that after we estimate it in Hadoop? Do we have to translate everything? Or is there a way to translate the estimates into something that we can implement? Does that make sense?
Are you talking about training, or are you talking about deployment?
Deployment. Training, you can actually get all the estimates and the nodes. How do you deploy and translate the model that you actually have estimated in Hadoop?
I'll show you some tricks later.
Yeah.
It can be, there are efficient ways of deploying.
We don't have a lot of time, so let's go ahead and take that question offline, if you don't mind. I want to do, first of all, make sure we have no more additional questions. Okay. So before we leave, I'm going to wrap up. We have like 1 minute. So before we, did you have a question? You're stretching? Okay. I'm going to get you, though. You move your hand. I'm going to get you. Okay. We have 1 minute. So I'd like, if you would like to share some additional information, please do. But the one last question I'd like to leave with, if folks are going to get started for the first time, I don't know if we asked this specific question. I just want to make sure we ask it. If you're getting started for the first time, what's like a tip that you can recommend that's going to help you get, let's just say Hadoop or whatever technology you're going to use up in less than 2 days?
Okay, shameless plug. I teach at UC Santa Cruz. So come down the road to the UCSC extension or come to the campus, main campus. I teach a series of classes on data analytics, and one of the core topics is working in a distributed computing environment such as MapReduce. So if you come to class, you will learn within a few weeks, and if not, then just send me an email. But MR Job is the way to go. It's just super simple, easy.
Would not have guessed that. Okay, anybody else?
No plug here. You cannot do everything at the same time. So you cannot create your model and your MapReduce task flow and at the same time deploying Hadoop. So my recommendation is, and there's most of the tools like pigs, use simple tools and use on single nodes to test and debug, especially if you have a developer, before you distribute it across hundreds of nodes and find out there's problems.
Yeah, I guess my last comment is just stay open. There's clearly, and just be aware of the trends, there's clearly a impetus away from Hadoop into Cassandra because of the administrative costs. There's clearly a market for something like different MapReduce frameworks like CouchDB. And so all these NoSQL type of databases have to be distributed on a cluster. When they do an all table scan, which is turned into an all cluster scan, those are all MapReduce jobs. So MapReduce is everywhere. It's not constrained to a programming language. It's not constrained to a particular runtime. All of them have their particular benefits and advantages. And my own personal experience, I find some of the newer things easier to use because people just got tired of dealing with Hadoop. It's still good compared to the other alternatives before pre-Hadoop. But you're talking apples and oranges. Google's a little different animal because we've invested into a lot of customization. And so just to give you a benchmark, about 10 years ago, we started a work queue. That just appeared in Hadoop, I don't know, in the last couple of years. And that gap has just grown. A lot of our own internal tools and our own internal infrastructure is geared for our own needs, like building indexes, which you guys don't care about. It's very, very, very customized. So, and also, the funny part is it's hard to use. You can't do a web search and look at internal bugs. You've just got to go through the source code. And so a lot of these external MR frameworks, they're actually pretty good for me. And something with a commercial support, where you look at it, you see an open source release, but you see a company behind it. Those are easier too because you know that you can do a web search and find an answer if you get stuck.
On that note, does somebody want to talk about getting started with? Yeah, go ahead. Just go ahead and make.
Well, the previous talk was SCM, it's Services and Configuration Manager, which facilitates installation of the Hadoop and management. In about a month, we'll release a new version of this product, just small advertisement here.
Okay.
So I'm going to aggregate what I have seen on many startups and internally at Yahoo,
Keep
taking
it
to
short 'cause we're out of
100
time.
people. So here are the first things. Start with higher level languages such as Pig. Don't underestimate it because a lot of startups start running it on 20 nodes and find out it's slower than one node. So know that it's a reality. I've seen it over and over. So expect what you're getting into. It's a distributed system. Use some of the existing distributions, whether it's Cloudera, it's MapR, or hopefully new recently Apache itself. Get help from Hortonworks and other companies out there. Use the existing ones; they help you a lot. Besides the Apache, so use the mailing lists. There are tens of people interested in helping you because they have gone through that path.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to wrap things up here, but before we do, if you didn't get a chance to sign the list, where's that list at, by the way? Okay. I forgot to mention one thing is in February, there's going to be a big data camp at the end of February, right before the Strata conference. That's an O'Reilly Strata conference. And as far as other events like this, are there any that you know of, Greg?
We're just doing this once a year.
Right, okay. All right.
Yeah, also if there's other cloud camps, we're happy to announce on the ACM page or on our email.
Okay, great. All right, so how about a round of applause for our panelists? I have to say just one comment. I don't think I've heard so many different languages, projects, products, companies, blogs, whatever mentioned in one panel at one time. So nice job. All right. So with that, we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Also give David
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay.
Hey, thanks very much.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's good.
Thank you.
I'm going to check the schedule.